right. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
of the
United
United States
States
of
of
America,
America and to the
to the republic
for
for which it
which it
stands,
stands,
One nation,
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and
justice for
justice.
all.
Okay, we're not all on the same page, but we did well. We did well. All right, now back to Charlotte.
All right. So the day in which school has been back in session has been changed 3 times. Currently, we are all at home doing various online learnings. I know at the high school, we did a mad dash to get core classes at least like 3 weeks worth of instruction in a packet form, as well as raffles and prizes for when we do come back for kids to use. We also have Chromebooks being distributed, especially around the high school area for online learning. And there's being lunches distributed at Morgan and Holyoke High School North Campus, I think, for students in need.
Awesome. Thank you so much. How are the students? I mean, like, how are you feeling right now, especially since you're a senior?
Yeah, as a senior, I'm a little scared that, prom and graduation are up in the air, but I think that being a better global citizen, is more important than a dance. So I think learning from home is also a different experience for kids who are trying to pursue alternative education like online trade school. It's a good experience to have.
Charlotte, do you want to share some of the concerns or the observations and perspective of your classmates on the call we had, the superintendent advisory call from last week?
So last week we had a superintendent advisory call, and some things that we were worried about were the AP exams, which are still on track, despite the fact that we will not be in school for 3 months leading up to them, as well as not really knowing exactly when we will be going back to school, how classwork will be graded, and, making sure that, especially high school and senior events, making sure that those are done because people travel for graduation and stuff like that. Thank you.
Is Charlotte still speaking or no?
No.
Nope.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you, Charlotte. And we're gonna, he's not here. So we're gonna go ahead with the who's 896? I'm sorry. Is that our other student rep?
That's me.
You're 896? Okay. Alrighty then. So then we're going to go ahead with the superintendent's communications.
Well, we're going to start with our presentation good evening, everybody, and thank you it's our first attempt at doing a Zoom virtual school committee meeting, and I appreciate everybody's efforts to make this work, and it's the first time for everything. So thank you to the public who is patient with us as we roll this out for the first time, and hopefully, it sounds like we'll have at least one more meeting virtually in the coming months, and it could be for the rest of the year. We'll see. We're going to start with a presentation about the Student Opportunity Act, and that's going to be led by myself and Aaron Linville, and you had, and then Anthony's on the call as well to answer some financial questions that folks may have. As you remember, the Student Opportunity Act was an unprecedented funding and resources to school districts, particularly with high need populations, and Holyoke stands to benefit a great deal, the tune of over around $27 million over the next 7 years. And as part of the Student Opportunity Act legislation, each district had to put together a proposal, which we discussed at our retreat, and the proposal is due April 1st. We believe that the legislature is going to extend the deadline, but we are here tonight still with our presentation because we wanted to stay on track, and a lot of work has already gone into our proposal for how we plan to use the resources for the next 3 years based on input that we received We were fortunate to get in all our stakeholder conversations prior to the school closure. And so we were able to get input. And tonight, for your consideration and discussion, we are sharing our proposal. You received a copy of the narrative over the weekend, which is a longer document. But I'd ask that you refer to the PowerPoint, which I'm going to share online right now. Or I'm going to share through Zoom right now. So I'm going to be sharing my screen with you, which has a copy of the presentation. I'm going to begin, and then Aaron's going to pick it up from where I leave off. So let me just, can everybody see this? Okay. All right. So, some reason I need to, okay, here we go. All right. So we're gonna discuss the stakeholder. The agenda is going to be about our engagement process, the investments we've chosen to make, and then how we plan to monitor success over the next 3 years. What you have in front of you is all the efforts that we made since the commissioner's office issued the template for the proposal, which a requirement was to engage the community. And so we started by having the school committee retreat on February 8th. We held the district parent advisory group meeting. We have a monthly meeting, and on February 11th, we got input from them. The teacher advisory group, which I meet with monthly, is representatives from every school, and they share their input on February 13th. We had a staff forum for only HPS staff on the 28th of February, a community forum, which many of you were in attendance for on March 3rd, which was for anybody in the public to attend. And then my last group right before we closed school was the student advisory group, of which Charlotte is a part of. So those were the 6 ways that we engaged the community over the last month or so around the Student Opportunity Act. Each of the meetings had basically the same format. We presented on the background of the Student Opportunity Act. Anthony Soto gave a presentation on the context of the budget, where we've been, what we expect and project for the upcoming year. And we discussed the Student Opportunity Act proposal process with the public. We then gave the audience an opportunity to share their input. And first, without any guidance, we asked them how they would like to see the resources spent, and then they had a chance to fill out Post-it notes to do that. And then we proceeded to break people up into groups, and they were given guidance. They were given a list of priority areas that the state would consider research-based high-leverage practices, and they then had to link their recommendations to one of those practices. And then in small groups, we asked people to prioritize no more than 3 priorities for the district moving forward. So what we come up, and each of the groups, there was a lot of overlap, but I'll just quickly say the school committee's responses were varied, not surprisingly, because you all represent different constituencies. The parent advisory group was very focused on 2 things. They were focused on mental health and social emotional supports for students, and they were focused on enrichment in schools, extracurricular, arts experiences for students. The teacher advisory group was particularly focused on, supporting holistic student needs, and they were also focused on co-teaching, inclusion supports, and adding more personnel, particularly in the areas of special education and EL teachers. The staff forum, not surprising, was very similar to the teacher advisory group feedback we received. The community forum on March 3rd We heard a lot about dual language expansion. We heard also about the arts, athletics, and enrichment opportunities for students came up as a significant focus. And the student advisory group, they were particularly focused on college and career access and support around college and career counseling. I think Charlotte shared a bit of that at the retreat, but that that also was shared by her classmates. Among many things, I think that was certainly prioritized by our students. So the priority investments that we've landed on, and each of the numbers corresponds to the number. This is in no particular order, but our proposal focuses on 5 high-level priorities, and each of the numbers corresponds to the number on the list provided by the Department of Education. The first is about expanding high-quality pre-kindergarten for 4-year-olds. We want to continue to increase the number of seats. As you know, we've doubled the number of seats, more than doubled the number of the seats over the last few years. We want to continue on that trend. The second priority investment is around early college. With the Student Opportunity Act, early college funding is not part of the Chapter 70 formula, and so districts do have to find funding to maintain the level of programming they have. And as you know, those numbers have increased tremendously. This in Holyoke over the last few years. This also includes the hiring of an additional college and career counselor for Holyoke High School. The third item on here, number 6, is about the holistic student needs. Is really about increased mental health supports for students in schools. It's also providing more coaching, content-based coaching for teachers so they can better support the academic needs for students who are struggling. The fourth item, which is number 7 on the list, is expanding inclusion and co-teaching opportunities for students with disabilities and English language learners. We have in our preliminary budget proposal, we've added additional special education teachers. We've also added additional ELL teachers so that the ratios improve and that we're able to do more inclusionary work as part of our instruction, our core instruction across our schools. And then there is funding here to continue the dual language expansion. As many of you know, we want to expand the Kelly School. We also have the commitment of expanding the program at Ian White and expanding the program at Metcalf School. And then finally, the arts, athletics and enrichment, but our focus is really going to be on the arts. We've had an arts task force, which Aaron Brunell has been a part of more recently, and the focus has been trying to ensure that every student has access to music and art over the next 3 years at every elementary and middle school. There is the recommendation, the Arts Task Force has just put its draft recommendations together, and I hope they'll have a chance to meet with the committee and their proposals about adding some form of an arts director to the school district. If you look at the next slide, I'm not going to, this just shows, this was not in your initial, the initial presentation. This shows you the funding. It's it's over $4 million of investment. Some of the money is new money that we spent in this current fiscal year. We added to the budget after the budget was passed last year. But this shows you the breakdown of where the investments are going to go based on the categories, the 5 categories listed in the previous slide. I'm gonna turn. Yep.
Can people hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. Hi, I'm Erin Lindveld, Chief of Strategy and Turnaround in Holyoke. I've been here since 2015. I'll spend about 2 minutes per slide, mostly focused on what the investments will look like for the upcoming year. The $100,000 investment in pre-K seems modest at first, but it's really building on the work that we've already done. As you know, as Dr. Zweig highlighted, nearly doubling since the start of receivership. Our investment in pre-K is paying off. We see that our students enrolled in full day pre-K are 2 times more as likely to be prepared for kindergarten and have higher rates of attendance. This monetary investment for next year reflects hiring a special education teacher to provide push-in services to support students in our partner programs, so that they can stay in those programs, but we can also provide the services. A couple of the other pushes for the upcoming year, which are not costly, is to convert one half-day integrated program to a full-day program. This will mean more full-day seats for students, which we continue to hear is important to families for the educational and convenience reasons. In that, we need to be very mindful also of ensuring that our students with disabilities have equal access to full-day seats in all of our full-day programs. So we have we modified the enrollment process to make sure that can happen this upcoming year. And then, of course, we need to strengthen our pre-K professional development, especially around supporting students with disabilities. In the future years of the Student Opportunity Act, we will have more investment in actually opening up new classrooms and converting more of those half-day classrooms to full-day as well. For those who are watching on TV, I'd like to encourage you to go to the HPS website, choose HPS, and then enroll your student, because we're accepting applications for those full-day pre-K slots now. The second investment is around advanced learning opportunities, especially early college. This is another area of significant pride for Holyoke, where we've really been pioneers in expanding access to advanced learning and increasing the equity of who does have access. Enrollment in these opportunities has doubled over the past few years. This year in early college, we have 145 students at Holyoke Community College and another 45 at Westfield State, plus more in dual enrollment. And as you can see on the top of the slide, next year we're going to have 270 students in early college. That's an increase of 80, growing up to 290 within 3 years' time. Key highlights for the upcoming year for this also includes hiring more career, vocational, technical education teachers and assistants. We know that we need some of the more advanced classes for that count for advanced learning opportunities, and we know that we want to continue to strengthen those programs, especially given the high interest at the Dean campus and also the strong connection to college and career. We're especially excited that students at Dean, as you heard last month, have more opportunities for advanced coursework through things such as the dual enrollment anthropology class that's taking place at Dean right now. Well, not right now, but not physically at Dean, but remotely. As Dr. Zweig highlighted, hiring a college and career counselor to help students navigate their next steps. This even starts with simple things like increasing the percent of students who apply for financial aid, which is critical to them being able to attend and persevere in college. And then continuing to grow early college, as we highlighted. I think a really notable piece of this is that our classes at HCC are tied to our theme-based academy. So that connection between college and career is becoming tighter each year, so that it really is a connected experience. So students can explore what their passions are and see what that might look like for them after graduation. So the investment in early college and other advanced opportunities is about $0.6 million in the next year. On the next slide, we see supporting holistic student needs, and this is a big investment of $1.6 million. And it falls within 2 main categories. One is the BRIGHT program, which is really designed to support about the 5% of students who have the most significant social emotional learning needs. We need to provide them with rigorous support so that they can effectively engage in school. And this will contribute to a more holistic, successful classroom and school environment for everybody in school. The monetary investment in the upcoming year is focused primarily on trauma counselors and SEL support paraprofessionals. The program is furthest along at Holyoke High and then Peck, and then we're in the process of starting up those elementary programs. And of course, that supports the SEL needs of students, but it's critical that we support the academic needs of students as well. We're making an investment in transitioning our coaches to master teachers to reflect the important role that they play in providing crucial intervention and acceleration opportunities for students, and also ensuring that we can attract and retain these leaders who are essential to also developing the practice of our teaching professionals. We will also be adding a couple positions to ensure that all schools have access to that English language arts and math coaching. On the next slide, we see a $1.2 million investment in inclusion and co-teaching opportunities for students with disabilities and students who are English learners. This is obviously a big area of investment. Our achievement data for students with disabilities and English learners is far too low, and we need to ensure that we're investing to support our most vulnerable populations. We have a particular focus on the students who are dual identified, both as a student with a disability and as an English learner. We are adding inclusion teachers and English language learner teachers. This will provide more opportunities for co-teaching in the classroom, and then also more customized supports for students. We also are continuing to work on differentiating our PD, our professional development, for these teachers by content areas, but of course, our students with disabilities and English learners are all of our students, so we also need to provide appropriate training for our core content and specials teachers as well. Obviously, the dual language program has been a highlight of Holyoke for some time. It's in extremely high demand. You know, we can be really proud of the third grade proficiency in ELA and Metcalf ELA and math that our Metcalf third graders recently showed. They exceeded the state average last year. And there's also a ton of research about how being in a dual language program supports the cognitive, social, and language development of students. We're going to be continuing by expanding the sixth grade for Metcalf next year, the third grade for Ian White. But very excitedly, we are investing in a kindergarten class at Kelly as well. It's really important to us that we have equal access to the dual language programs, and at Kelly, we have 33% of our students are English learners, and dual language programs are really shown to accelerate the academic achievement of students who are English learners. The families have strongly advocated for this. And once again, I would encourage families who are interested in applying for the dual language program at Kelly to go to the HPS website, to that Choose HPS tab, and then enroll your student. We really want to accept the applications for the Kelly students, Kelly Rising Kindergarten, who want to join that dual language class. Last page, and then we'll take questions, is around expanding access to the arts, athletics, and enrichment. The nice coupling with this is that when students have access to high quality enrichment, it can also provide great opportunities for teacher collaboration and planning. As we know, arts and enrichment are critical engagement areas for students. I know I have my two school age kids. That's often the highlight of the day that they talk about. The specials excite them. Where one of the benefits right now, I guess, or a small bright spot of being in remote learning is they're going to do piano. And we want all students to have opportunities for that art and musical type creation. So we're making a modest investment in year one, and we're hoping to expand on this in future years. We really want to also have a staff member who could lead this work across the district. Next year, our investment focused on as a music teacher at Veritas and an art teacher at Morgan, and hopefully a STEM or visual arts teacher at Holyoke STEM Academy as well. I lied, I have one more page. Of course, we have a strong system already for monitoring the impact of our efforts, and we'll continue to utilize that system to ensure that we are being smart stewards of the Student Opportunity Act investment. These are all things that we already measure. We want it to fit in well with our current improvement efforts. Under the DESE metrics, the first 4 bullet points ELA achievement, math achievement, ELA, which means English Language Arts, student growth percentile, and math SGP, all go to support the priorities of, or measures support the priorities of advanced coursework. In that third priority area, that sixth priority area, coaching, the seventh priority area around supporting English learners and students with disabilities, and that 12th area with the arts. That fifth bullet, progress towards attaining English proficiency, really should be a good metric of measuring the successes of number 6 and 7 around the co-teaching and more ESL teachers. And that last one, advanced coursework completion, obviously ties in with the third priority of early college. On the right side of the slide, the HPS specific metrics. That first one around early literacy will help us monitor the success of our pre-K expansion, number 1. The second and third ones are around measuring the success of the BRIGHT program and meeting the mental health needs of our students. And the last one is from the Panorama survey, opportunities that meet student interests and needs. It helps us to measure the success of our early college program and our arts and enrichment. So thanks for having me be here today, and Drs. Reich, Anthony, and I look forward to your questions.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go one by one, and just if you have a question, go ahead and unmute and say your comment or ask your question, and I'll go through each person. So the first one is Devin Sheen. He's all set? Okay. Miss Brunel. She's all set. Miss Tensley Williams.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I have one question. The young lady answered the other one, so the only one I have left is, how is the monitoring success for the reduction for out-of-school suspensions going? How's that rate going so far?
I can answer that. I mean, for this year, I guess you're asking?
Yes, sir.
We were on a good pace. We were slightly ahead of where we were the year before, and then of course school closed. So we were trending in a positive direction at most schools, and overall as a district, our days lost to suspension had improved, and our suspension rate was on track to be slightly less than what it had been in the previous year.
Thank you, sir.
Was that it, Miss Tensley Williams?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank
Over
you.
and out.
All right.
Okay.
Miss Burks. She's all set. Miss Feliciano Sims. She's all set. Mr. Wellahan.
Oh, hi. For the dual language expansion, how much staff will be hired?
Great question. I can take that. We need to hire 2 new teachers for the 6th grade at Metcalf, 2 new teachers for the 3rd grade at Eden White, and actually at Kelly, we're just transitioning to the teacher and the paraprofessional who would have been teaching just the general education kindergarten to be teaching the dual language instead. In subsequent years, in years 2 and 3, we would hope to hopefully add on to that, and that could be an investment in new teachers. And then plus there's some curricular investment in this as well.
Can I just add one thing? There is,
Thank you.
There is a proposal, Mr. Wellahan, from Metcalf, though, to get additional supports for the expansion of the middle school. We're going to provide them with at least 2 teachers, but we're going to look to see if there's a possibility to support them as they expand the middle school, which we've done. We've helped subsidize both STEM, Veritas, as they've expanded to middle school grades. So Metcalf has a proposal that parents, staff, and Miss Burke worked on that we are evaluating, but they're going to get at least 2 additional teachers.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wellahan. Mr. Collmore. Mr. Is Mr. Collmore here?
You can
Okay.
unmute for him in case he can't figure it out.
I think the only one that can possibly do that would be Liz, right? No?
Yeah,
Liz
Liz is the host, so she can unmute him and ask him if he needs anything.
Mike Hines is the host.
Mike. Yeah, Mike.
Okay. Well,
I'll check with Mike Hines right now.
okay, so we're gonna just go ahead and move on to Mr. Cushane. Do you have
Hi.
any?
I'm wondering how many students are they looking to expand in the sixth grade at Metcalf? I'm just kind of like, just if you could give some just general numbers of what that Spanish immersion program is looking like for Metcalf and Ian White. I'm just curious.
Are you asking about the enrollment for the upcoming school year, or the expansion of middle school?
Well, is sixth grade considered the middle school at this point?
Yeah, sixth grade. Yes, thank you for clarifying. It is the so the fifth grade moving to sixth grade at Metcalf is a very small class, because that was the first class in the year that receivership happened, and there wasn't sure whether dual language would continue. So there's about 35 or so students total. It's a small group. Aaron, I don't know if you want to share the numbers of the applications. I don't know if you know what the pre-K and kindergarten application numbers are.
Oh, I actually don't have those off the top, but I'd be happy to follow up with the committee. Yep. I can even look it up while we meet. But right now, like, even though, like, when we add a sixth grade class, obviously the kids are currently there, they're in fifth grade. So it's really about how many kindergarten slots we have open each year. So the plan is to have between 100 and 110 kindergarten slots open for next fall. That would be, 2 classes worth at Ian White, 2 classes worth at Metcalf, and then 1 at Kelly. And currently, I'm pretty sure that right now we try to have it balanced between who's English speaking and who's Spanish speaking, and then try to give preference to people at Ian White for people who are zoned. And so right now, like, all the open slots for English speakers across the district are currently filled, but we still have slots for Spanish speaking families for the rising kindergarten at Metcalf, and then and some at Ian White as well. And then we can still accept applications for Spanish dominant students in grades 3, 4, 5, and 6 at Metcalf.
I have a quick follow-up on that. Have the zones? I don't, especially I've been looking at that Ian White zone, and it just seems so strange that it stops at Northampton Street. And if you're on the other side of Northampton Street, even though you're well within walking distance of Ian White, you're not in the Ian White zone. And that line has moved from a more reasonable place halfway up Bemis Road in the past. And I'm wondering if we've looked at that at all recently.
With Aaron.
I'm happy to take that. Sorry, I thought Dr. Zreck might want to. I think that it's important to look at rezoning and redistricting comprehensively for the whole district as we look at distinct elementary and middle schools. I would recommend that we do that in a more careful way, maybe by fall 2021 or fall 2022 or 23, in a way that looks at it comprehensively for the whole district. I did just get a text that said we've had 162 applications already for the dual language program, and that doesn't count our pre-K students who are already able to go into those existing kindergarten slots. They're already guaranteed for the program. So the demand's really high.
Yeah, Mr. Korshang, to Aaron's point, the district definitely needs to redistrict. We were waiting to see what the direction was going to be on the middle schools. Obviously, we got the answer with the vote, but obviously there's another proposal on the table that's sitting with the city council right now. And depending on what happens with that, I think will drive, the redistricting conversation. But either way, at some point soon, redistricting needs to be looked at for Holyoke.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Mr. Collmore. Mr. Collmore, are you there?
He's not muted.
Yeah, he's not muted.
He may have a trouble with his connection, is what they're saying.
All right. So, Mayor Morse.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll try again afterwards with Mr. Collmore, Miss Brunel.
So if we could just, on some of the points that we touched on Metcalf real quick. Are we opening 6th grade up to additional applications for students who aren't currently in 5th grade at Metcalf? Isn't that correct?
Yes, but you would need to be Spanish dominant. It would be, the research shows that it'd be challenging for like a.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
I mean, a 12-year-old who's only spoken English to be successful in the program.
Have you had people applying?
Unfortunately, for that rising 6th grade class, we have not. We've had a smattering in grades 3, 4, 5. Like sometimes 2, sometimes 1 of people applying. What we more try to do is throughout the year, when new families are coming in and they might be a good fit for those dual language slots, that's when we try to encourage them during the year to actually go right into the program.
Okay, and I know this isn't a Metcalf dominant conversation, but we really need to make the decisions for next year and get those decisions into the hands of families, because I know personally families that are considering enrolling their children elsewhere simply because they don't know what's happening yet. So we don't know exactly where we're going to school. We don't know who the teachers will be. We don't know what the curriculum's going to be. We don't know. I know there was a plan submitted, but and I know that there's been a lot going on with coronavirus and everything, but I mean, nobody knows what's going on yet. So I think maybe having those decisions finalized will help parents be able to potentially apply to enter the 6th grade there if they at least know what building their kids are going to school and what their curriculum is going to look like and just everything in a nutshell for that middle school.
Yeah, that's a point well taken. And my plan was to have something by April vacation. I still hope to do that. Obviously, what's happened in the last couple of weeks has thrown us off a bit, but I couldn't agree with you more. We don't want to lose families because they're not certain about what's going to happen next.
Yep, there's families within the school that have multiple kids there that are considering not sending their kid, the oldest now, for the 6th grade because they simply don't know. They don't know yet. Nobody knows yet. So it's really got to get figured out.
And I'm going to go ahead and ask Charlotte. Charlotte, do you have anything to share or questions?
Yes, I was just wondering if under holistic learning, are we looking at the technological lens in any sense? I brought it up before when I was talking at the equity board meeting and also during our council retreat about how I think that we need to revamp our technology. I know that we said that this might be a Metcalf dominated conversation, but because I don't have my parents coming into the school to talk about, equality when it comes to technology, I'm going to speak for the 1,300 students who don't have access to one-on-one computers, especially in this age when stuff like Zoom meetings need to happen daily because we are in quarantine. I think that our technology, especially on the high school level, has been lacking. And the fact that there wasn't really any address to it, especially when a marker for success has been our math and science grades, as we said before on their little list there. I was just wondering if we're going to do anything with this money that we're getting to increase our technology, especially on the high school level.
Yeah, Charlotte, it's a great question. It's a great question and a great point. We are learning a lot about technology through the coronavirus. We have 2 schools, as I think you know, that have middle schools that have one-to-one right now. And there's a huge advantage for the students in those schools right now because they use it continuously with their teachers even before this happened. And those students are rising. They're coming to high school as early as next year, right? The 8th graders coming up to 9th grade. We really do want to move the high school to 1-to-1. I think obviously this is displaying some of the gaps that we have, but also as a state that we have in terms of giving access to students. And I think I think students are going to be craving it even more now that they've had this experience. So couldn't agree with you more. I think the issue wasn't so much a financial one because we have a lot of devices. It was more of a logistical, operational one. And I think we need to start having those conversations about how do we make the high school experience a 1-to-1 as students are coming up with that experience. And going to college next year, colleges are going to be 1-to-1. So a point well taken. Less financial, more about us getting the logistics about how to roll that out now that we've already learned how to do that at 2 schools.
Okay. And do we have a timeline on when that will happen, that we work out the logistics?
Yeah, well, I think this is all making us revisit the 1-to-1 conversation now. So I think we're all going to have an appetite to do it sooner than we initially thought. So I can't give you a good answer, but it's a good, other than, now most of our students have them at home and they're experiencing what it's like to have a 1-to-1 initiative with the device going home with them. So I would like to see it sooner than later, but I don't want to make promises that it's going to happen this fall.
All right. Mr. Soto.
I just wanted to add to what Dr. Zreich was saying. We're not really that far away from 1-to-1. We just invested late last year. We purchased about 1,500 Chromebooks to spread it out through the district, and 4 years ago we purchased 1,200 of them, which will be replenished this upcoming year. So we'll have a good number of Chromebooks that are fairly new, within either brand new or within a year old, and none of those need to get distributed to the 2 schools that already are at 1-to-1. So as far as the number of devices that we have in the district, we're pretty close to where we need to be. As Dr. Zreich mentioned, it's just a matter of working out the logistics and distributing them accordingly.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're Mr. Stan.
Yeah, so given the fact that we know that I think the legislature actually already passed allowing for a later submission of the Student Opportunity Act plans just recently, was there any consideration in looking at what we had submitted for and kind of taking a look at what we've been through the past 2 weeks to make any alterations to that, especially when it comes to supports around some of the additional student supports? I mean, I know this is kind of a crazy time that we're in right now, but right now, I mean, who knows? It could become more of a norm for the future. I just, if you asked me even a month and a half ago if I thought that we were going to be in our homes for at least a month and a half, I never would have thought that. I mean, it's just something it's hard to think about. But I mean, was there any thought into making any alterations into the plan to kind of address some of those needs to build capacity? I mean, I see the points that Charlotte raises, whether they're tied to this or not, but I guess I look at how could they be tied to it, because it was still, I mean, yes, we may have been 1-to-1, but we weren't take home. And I mean, that was part of the problem that we have to have pickups now because our devices weren't take home. They were just 1-to-1 for students in schools. So I mean, there's just some things out there that are we learning lessons to maybe change for the future that should be in our Student Opportunity Act proposal to kind of make for a better learning environment that aren't.
Yeah, I mean, I think you raised some good questions, Devin. I also think, but I think what you said at the beginning around the academic gaps and the summer school question is going to be important as well in terms of funding. I do fully expect that with the stimulus money, we're Massachusetts, and then Holyoke would stand to benefit with resources coming to address some of those things, including technology that we've distributed as part of the closure. So we don't have to submit, because now we don't necessarily have to submit by next week, this week. It gives us time to see where the resources land. We should hear in the next 2 weeks how we stand to benefit from the stimulus money, and it could cause us to make an adjustment. Our whole budget could be blown up based on what happens with the economy also. I would also believe that the state's going to give tremendous flexibility to districts given what's occurred. We wanted to remain true to the process that we went through. We're presenting our best thinking based on the feedback we got pre-corona, but yes, it could change, and we'll keep you apprised of that.
All right. One last time, Mr. Colomar, are you with us? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on. Dr. Zreich,
Yeah. So we are going to move into the corona portion of the conversation, and I'm just going to share a lot of what's in your notes. I just want to highlight a couple of things, but then open it up to questions that you all have regarding any aspect of a response. I did give you copies in your packet of the recent correspondence from the commissioner regarding remote learning expectations and guidance around special education. We are still working on our alignment to those expectations, and we will be providing more information to families and our staff in the next week. Around learning, the commissioner was a little more explicit about approximately 3 hours a day of learning a week in a combination of online, structured learning, take-home, packets, a variety of different learning, and also a wide range of learning experiences, not just academic, but physical activity, SEL, arts. And so we are, in our academic team, is working with our principals to put out new guidance for schools, for our staff, and then for parents in the coming days and week. All of you know that our learning right now is on the remote learning site at hpsathome.com. I'm getting a little bit of feedback here, so if everybody could mute, that would be great. And our educators have done an amazing job. I'm really grateful. I should have started with this, with how our staff has responded to the unprecedented times. And we continue to post. We posted, and our educators have been posting regularly at hpsathome.com. We've distributed close to 1,000 Chromebooks over the last week to students, to the point that Charlotte made earlier. We are still providing devices this week that are, we had another 30 or so go out today for families, and we are delivering to families that have requested and cannot come in person. Oregon is now our only site where we're distributing devices to minimize the exposure to our schools. We do have staff who are in the community getting names of students and families that still need devices, and we will continue to provide any devices, to at least one device per family for those that need it. We are now also opening it up to pre-K students, which we hadn't before. So if there's a pre-K family that does not have a device, we will now provide them to students. Mayor, I don't know if you want to say something about the work with the internet access. I've been a huge champion for this. I don't know if you want to talk about the conversations with Comcast to support our families with accessibility.
Yeah, so we've been working with, we started a conversation with Comcast, about a week and a half ago. So they have the Internet Essentials program, and so we've identified a certain percentage of students. It's number one thing to give folks a device. It's another thing to actually make sure they have internet to connect the device, fully participate, and immerse themselves, learn, communicate in this time of social distancing and people spending time at home. So the Internet Essentials program, one of the rubs with Comcast was that any family that had debt within the last year was going to be excluded from that program, and we continue to push back on that. In collaboration with the school department, we have offered to pay in the state of emergency for up to several months of internet access through that program moving forward. And so our argument to Comcast was, well, what does it matter about their past debt when we're going to pay for this set period of time for kids to have internet while they're at home? And so they, as of now, they wouldn't budge on that. We're still going to move forward with the program, and the city will be a sponsor of that internet programming. Comcast still has the ability to stop service for those families in debt. So we are negotiating to some extent still, but we are moving forward on covering the Internet Essentials program for those students that don't have internet at home. And I just want to thank Anthony and Steve and the whole team at the school department for utilizing the Chromebooks and the laptops. And I think Anthony said this the other day. He's in constant contact with school departments all across the state and Western Mass. And no other district is doing the work that we're doing. And if they are, they're doing it because they're seeing the work that our school department is doing for our kids and our families. And just want to thank our teachers, because so many of them individually reached out to their students, calling their parents, asking them if they had a device at home, and making sure they knew exactly how to get it. And so this has really been a team effort between the city and the school department. And I think all of us should be proud that we're here in Holyoke doing this.
It looks like Devin has a question, Mildred.
Okay, Mr. Sheehan.
Yeah, this is for the mayor, and I just want to make sure I understood correctly. So the city has offered to basically pay for the Internet Essentials for families that don't have it, and Comcast has indicated that if a family has not paid their bill in the past, that even though the city is willing to pay for it now, they won't connect that?
Yes, that is true. Even though they have the right to turn off the service once the city stops paying. So they essentially wouldn't lose any money or go further into debt, but they have this policy around debt that is younger than a year. And so we're not happy about it. And we're trying to figure out what that number is. So that's the situation at the moment.
So when you say debt that's younger than a year, that's something that was incurred within the past year that wasn't paid?
Yeah.
I mean, I will just say as a commentary on the huge, vast network of cable companies, that's a pretty crappy decision they're making, that our city is trying to do something good and right for our students and our families. And the cable company is saying, well, we still want our money, even though you're willing to pay for this. And they can't figure out a way that they could still collect on that and not allow students to have access. So I would hope that anyone that's listening out there would maybe call up their local Comcast or whatever it may be and say that we're trying to do something right and we're being blocked to doing something right.
No, it's honestly ridiculous. And we have alerted both Senator Markey and Senator Warren's office. They know the specifics here. And they promised to make calls. And so we're waiting to hear back as to what progress they're making directly with Comcast on this effort. So absolutely, I agree with you.
Because I assume we're setting like a termination, like we're paying for this for so many months and then it's over. What are our parameters on it?
I forget, Anthony. I think it was maybe up to 6 months max.
Yeah. So the first 2 months is free, and the city's going to be continuing service for 4 more months. So each family that does sign up to this program that we're going to be sponsoring would get up to 6 months access of internet, depending upon when you actually sign up. It's not like a period. So I think that there's going to be a lot of legwork on our end, trying to make sure that the families that need it do sign up by a certain date. And then depending on when they sign up, they'll get 2 months of free internet, and then the city will pay for 4 months of internet. And it's right around $9.99 per family that we set it up for. We're in conversation with them around whether or not we have to pay taxes on that and what the final number is going to be. But those are ongoing negotiations and discussions that me, Mr. Bloomberg, and the mayor's office are continuing to have with Comcast.
Yeah, and I would say anything that any of us can do as local elected officials, and whatever pressure that may be. I don't know. I just have a really bad sense about that we're, like I said, we're trying to do the right thing, and we're being stopped by a multi-billion-dollar corporation because someone may owe for a cable bill from 3 months ago.
I'll just say that, I mean, the mayor can attest to this. We have the same frustration that you're expressing right now, is the same frustration that both the mayor and I have expressed with Comcast. Like, every time we talk, I think every email I say I see to Comcast, and every discussion we have is that policy is ridiculous, and continuing to push them to waiver on it, disqualifying anybody who might not be eligible for whatever reason. So they have an eligibility criteria that families have to meet. One of them being you can't have outstanding debt. I don't know exactly what the others are, and we're working through those details right now, but we have expressed wholeheartedly how ridiculous that is, and we weren't really nice about it either.
All right. Thank you. And then a couple notes I just highlight, and then I open it up to questions and comments from the school committee. Is I'm very concerned about the social emotional well-being of our students and families at this time. We are now exploring a system of support, mental health supports for families who are struggling with this school closure. We are starting to see on our hotline more and more calls. Not so much, there's some about food, there's some about devices, about work, but a lot of it's somebody to talk to about managing, having children at home, children who are struggling with mental health challenges. Liz is one of the people, Liz LaFont, who takes the calls. It has really triggered us with the importance of having some counseling supports. And Mario, the chief of social emotional learning, is working very closely with some of the other agencies in the community to try to set something up, because I do think as this extends, this should be a significant concern for all of us that work with children and families in the city of Holyoke. There are many questions right now about senior activities, graduations, grade level promotion. I think those are all really important questions. We don't have answers quite yet because we don't know if we're coming back May 4th or not. We are going to put out some guidance soon about what's going to happen with third quarter grades for grades 6 to 12th grade students, and some preliminary guidance around what will happen with fourth grade grades, both whether we come back or if we don't come back after May 4th. The report cards for K to 5 students, which were closed, the trimester 2, they closed right before we left for school closure. Those will be mailed to families this week. Report cards and IEP progress reports will be mailed to families this week. So families can expect those coming in the mail in the next week and a half. No decisions have been made about April vacation and whether it will serve as a break for staff and students. The department indicated that they will be providing us with guidance on that this week. And the commissioner has also not made a decision around MCAS. He is waiting for the legislature to give him the authority to make a decision about MCAS. But with each day that goes on, it becomes increasingly unlikely that there'll be any form of MCAS for the remainder of the year. We're still operating 6 food sites, Morgan, Kelly, Lawrence, Holyoke High North, Sullivan, and Donahue. On Fridays, we're serving about 900. We're serving to about 900 families a day across the district. We are also doing deliveries to families that have requested it, and we are also providing backpacks to families that are on our homeless backpack program. On Fridays, families get meals for the weekend. We are discussing next week moving to a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule at the sites to minimize the exposure to our staff. And in that way, families don't have to come every day. We can give them multiple meals for the next 2 days. And as you may know, the Boys and Girls Club launched their dinner program today in the city, which is a big win for many of our students and families. We are instructing all our school leaders to hire. We have postings up online. We already had a job fair prior to the closure, and we are telling our people to hire virtually for any known and anticipated openings. Our school leaders are very busy right now on their budgets, working on their budget, their school improvement plans, and their operational plans, among at the same time managing the remote learning expectations for their schools. We continue to tell families to reach out on the hotline if they have questions. There's a Spanish hotline and an English hotline, and that's the best way for us to get them information and for us to answer questions that they may have. I'm going to stop there. I don't know if folks have questions about the corona response. Can't promise I can answer all the questions, but I will do my best.
If anybody has any questions, raise your hands, and then I'll go through those that are by phone. So, Ms. Burks.
So I just want to give, a shout out to all the teachers and the paras and the staff and the above and beyond work that they've been doing. But I also wonder if there's any way to put it out there to kind of like walk the line when it comes to some families, because for some families, it's also getting a little overwhelming, and realizing that, they're adjusting to a new way of life also. And I think it's really important. So I think we're doing tremendous work, but I think we still need to figure out how to walk that line.
Becky or Ms. Burks, you're referring to like the number of contacts made just to be clear, is that what you're referring to?
It's the number of the contacts made, but it's also, just kind of being understanding of what these families are going through as well. Some people don't feel comfortable with the teaching aspect, and some families are really overwhelmed by the current situation. Especially speaking upon like social and emotional kids, special ed students that have been taken out of their comfort zone and out of their schedule. The struggle's real for these families, and getting used to it and figuring it out. I want everybody to be mindful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that feedback.
Thank you. Ms. Brunette?
I was just wondering if something that we could do, part of our coronavirus response, is putting on a facet of, especially for seniors, college decisions are happening while we are still out of school. So maybe we could put something on our social media and maybe something bigger on our website about guidance outreach and stuff like that, because it's really difficult to make your college decisions when you can't visit the campuses or really speak face-to-face with your guidance counselor. So maybe putting the guidance page in an announcement or something like that, so kids know who to reach out to.
Thank you, Charlotte. That was similar to what you and your classmates shared on the call. I did share that with Dr. Mahoney, but I think you're absolutely right, because a lot of students got their acceptances or information just in the last week, and they have to make decisions by May 1st. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Yep, I think that's a great point.
Mr. Sheehan.
Yeah, and I will say it's also and Dr. Zreik and I talked about this either last week or someday, days blend together right now, about making sure that all the high school seniors have full access for scholarships and the ability to apply for scholarships. And he did tell me that someone is periodically going in to make sure that at least any transcripts and things that need to be compiled or whatever needs to be done is getting done. So hopefully that will continue. I'm sure it will. But I guess my question is, you mentioned some of the social emotional supports for families, but have we gotten maybe resent out to our staff at least information around the employee assistance program, anything they may need? I mean, some people are struggling with this, and I just wonder if we've reiterated to staff the resources available to them if they need it.
Yeah, it's a terrific point, Devin. We just talked about needing to do that. We do have an employee assistance program, and our chief of human resources was going to send that out again. So yeah, it's an excellent point. It's not just about our students and families, it's also about our staff who are struggling to manage this as well. So yes, very important that we do that.
Yeah, and then whenever it's appropriate, I do have another question about some of the communications. I don't know if you want it now or afterwards.
You're on a roll, sure.
Just, I was looking at the communication you sent us regarding school choice.
Oh, yes.
I'm just wondering about the numbers and that came up. They seem to be some of them very erratic, and I'm just wondering with spacing, why that is, especially like the big drop around like 5th, 6th grade in availability, and is that really? I mean, are we really that full?
Well, we're trying to keep our class sizes to a certain number, and we're basing it on what it would take to not have to open another classroom, generally speaking, across the district. So it is on the conservative side. To be honest, we don't really turn away many school choice students, especially if they meet the expectations we set. You know, we do have an expectation around attendance, and we do have an expectation around discipline when they apply. And so beyond that, we have allowed students to choice in, but we are looking just generally across the grade levels, such that we don't want to put our schools in a position where we'd have to open additional classrooms. And it is on the conservative side.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Now I'm gonna go to Miss Feliciano Sims. Can you just say yes or no if you have any questions?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Wellahan. Mr.
Students right now.
Oh,
I missed that.
Are you all set, Mr. Wellahan?
He says he was trying to have some.
Let's see, the campus at HCC is closed. How is that affecting the students in our system?
Charlotte wants to answer that question. I just saw her raise her hand, so I'm going to let Charlotte.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm an HCC dual enrollment student. I'm taking a studio art class, and my sister is actually taking a biology lab for the dual enrollment. Right now, since the campus is closed, they're asking most students if they're gonna drop the classes or not, which I think that's another thing that we should add to our website, because a lot of that is on your HCC email, which a lot of students might not be checking, especially if they're doing face-to-face classes. So if we could add that as well. I think another thing that we have to look at is, again, the lack of technology for students doing dual enrollment if they don't already have it.
I do know. Oh, sorry, Charlotte. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
We did reach out to all the dual enrollment students to make sure they had devices, because the colleges are continuing online. So Megan Harrison, who runs our dual enrollment efforts and early college efforts, she's made sure that students have access to devices. But I think you make a good point. But I know she's been trying to reach out to students who may have trouble accessing the online classes.
Yeah. Other than that, if you're doing a studio or lab, you will be getting the studio and lab credit, as well as moving on to Moodle and Blackboard. So they should be integrating, and they're integrating better than I think we are.
Charlotte, have you started, or have those classes started yet, or not yet?
Yes, they have. They officially started on the 27th. So yes.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Mr. Soto, did you have something to share in regards? We can't hear you.
Can't hear you there.
How about now?
Yeah.
How about now? Charlotte, I just wanted to say, if you know of any students that do not have a device, we've been making every effort to reach all of the students. We do have devices for them. So if you have any friends that are in dual enrollment and need those devices, please reach out to us and we'll make sure that they get a device. So the devices are there.
Yes.
Okay, great. Anything else, Mr. Wellahan?
No, thank you.
All righty. Ms. Tensley Williams.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm going to jump back up real quick to number 6. support holistic student needs, content-based coaching. The question that I have, it's a development for the teachers and kids that are struggling. Do you have an app for coaching, because they're still going to need coaching? Maybe Dr. Z could answer that.
You mean like a technology app? Like
Right. For the ones that are struggling, they're still going to need coaching.
Right. So the coaching is for teachers, and then those coaches also provide intervention for struggling students as part of their job description. But we do have a number of apps that our teachers assign students who are struggling and need extra support, like Lexia is an example that we use for literacy. And so our schools do have apps that they've been asking, that they've been encouraging students to use who are struggling, particularly during this time of school closure. So yes, on our site, there's a number of different applications, and teachers are also assigning students right now applications to help them so they don't fall further behind.
Okay, good. And I just want to say real quickly, thank everyone for being on the site tonight. And I just want people to be encouraged. A lot is going on. Just try to be encouraged and just don't panic. Just follow the rules and we'll all be safe. And I'm praying for our city.
Thank you, Miss Rosalie. Mr. Collmore?
Yep.
All right, and Mr. Kershane?
I'm all set, thank you.
All right, great. Mr. Sheehan?
Yeah, I do want to let people know that I did just find out a little while ago that, as you know, the athletic season, MIAA had it start mid-April, I think, was going to be the date. They've since now changed it to start on May 4th. And they actually made the decision to run it, instead of ending it traditionally on June 20th, they're going to end it on June 27th. As long as nothing else comes out of the governor's office or depending on what happens. So there are some provisions for that. Now, one thing that I did hear Charlotte mention, and I don't know if I heard it wrong or not, but is there at HCC for dual enrollment, was there an encouragement to drop the course, or was it just that if someone wants to drop the course and not participate online, they should? And I guess for the district, if a student did that, what happens?
So I'm speaking from personal experience for me and my sister, but I did get an email saying that if I did drop the course, I would be refunded. I already got my stuff, but there was no encouragement to drop the course, but they said that if there was some extra stress or you could not finish your course under your own household means, that you were able to drop it, although it being outside of the add drop period.
Yeah, I was curious when you said that too. I will double check that. We are encouraging all of our students to continue taking the courses. At HCC, especially since we've been providing them with the technology to do that. So we'll double check. I didn't realize they had sent an email giving that option. I mean, obviously, if there's extenuating circumstances, but we really want our students to follow through all the way to the end of the term.
All righty. Okay. Is there anything else, Dr. Drake?
Non-corona wise, I did just, there's a couple notes here. Devin or Mr. Sheehan mentioned school choice recommendation, which is in your packet. That's an annual requirement that I bring to the school committee. And then we were designated a pathway in environmental and life sciences and healthcare and social assistance. That's a official pathway through the governor's office. More information to follow on that. That came in just as we were leaving or closing school. There is I put an article about literacy labs, which is a really promising early intervention at Donahue, Kelly, and Lawrence that the teachers have been very fond of because it's made a tremendous impact on students. Early ed students at pre-K to grade 3. And finally, I did include a copy of a letter from the Department of Ed regarding net school spending, and I'm pleased to share that we made net school spending last year, and with the recent transfer from the City Council of just over $600,000, we will now meet net school spending for FY20. Our projections for charter schools and choice were higher than the actual, and that's why the money was owed back to the school district, and that happened last month. I'll stop there. It would be great if somebody could, if there's somebody who wants to talk about the middle school building proposal. I believe that's the next item on the agenda. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Mr. Sheehan, do you want to say something about that?
I'm just wondering, is the council planning to meet to even discuss the SOI?
Mayor Morris, do you know the answer to that?
Well, I am not a member of the legislative body, so I can't answer for them. But I do know they're exploring Zoom capabilities to meet as well. My office has actually been helping them get the technology necessary, but I would defer to the council and the council president about that.
The deadline was extended for approval of the statement of interest until the beginning of May. I believe is it May 7th? Is that the right date? And so I did have a conversation with Councilor McGivern that he was aware of that new date, and they were going to try to take it up before then, and hopefully they're able to do that over Zoom in the next month.
And that's still in the Finance Committee, I believe, right?
That's correct.
And what would be the outcome if it's not met and spoken on?
I mean, if we don't submit a statement of interest, we don't have a potential for a project, and we can resubmit next January.
That's right.
Anyone else? No. Okay. I noticed we don't have the meeting minutes from our last meeting on here. So are we going to move that to the next meeting, Liz? Was that a yes? Nod? Okay, it's a nod. It's a yes. So is there any new business? No. Doctor's right.
Yeah, I just want to say two things. I just want to reiterate how proud I am of the team at the Holyoke Public Schools. Our food service workers, technology team, academic team, our teachers, our paras, everybody's working on overdrive, maybe sometimes a little too overeager, as we heard, but the intentions are good, and people really I've seen the best that the Holyoke Public Schools in the city of Holyoke has to offer. So I'm really proud of our team for what is, we could never have predicted. No one can predict this. And I do feel like we're ahead of the game. We're still learning. We're making mistakes, just like we're learning how to do a virtual school committee meeting. And I'm proud that we were able to pull this off. On that note, I want to thank Mike Hines for making this happen. Liz LaFon put a lot of time to make this happen. Judy Taylor. And I believe we were trying translation on Facebook from our translation and interpretation team. First time we've done interpretation, I should say, online during a meeting. So I look forward to getting that feedback as well. So I want to thank Nick Magnolia and his team for setting that up as well.
Sam Garcia, too.
Sam Garcia, yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, any ongoing business that we need to discuss? No. Announcements? Anybody have any announcements? So I just want to say thank you. I've been checking on Facebook, seeing Principal Soria, the principal also from Donahue, with their daily readings. I'm very impressed by all the work that everyone is doing across the district for our families and for our students. I want to thank them for all that they're doing, and I encourage them to continue doing it. These are rough times that we are going through, absolutely. A lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. We're just in uncertain times right now. But we've got to continue to stay strong, stay positive, and definitely stay sanitized, okay, people? So wash your hands frequently, and if that's it, is there a motion to adjourn?
So
yes,
moved.
I make a motion.
Is there a second? Rosalie, are you trying to make a second?
Second.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Liz, roll call for adjournment.
Sure enough. Mayor Morris. Mayor Morris, you left us. Mildred LaFave.
Aye.
Devin Sheehan.
Aye.
Aaron Brunel. Still here? Rosalie Tensley Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. Rebecca Burks.
Aye.
Irene Feliciano Sims.
Aye.
John Willahen.
Yes.
William Collmore. Niles Kershane.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so meeting adjourned at 7:25 p.m. Thank you, guys.